What we're facing here is a corruption of government unlike anything ever known in this country. Nameless, faceless bureaucrats wielding power in the back rooms, untouchable and unseen, is not freedom. There is nothing over, on, in, under, around the earth that doesn't fall under the purview of some part of Agenda 21. We who oppose it, frankly, don't accept the premise that we must destroy our human civilization in order to protect the environment. We believe in free markets and free societies where people make their own decisions and develop their own property. And we fully believe that the true path to strong protection of the environment is through private property ownership and limited government. Those who promote Agenda 21 do not believe in those ideals. And so we will not agree on the path for the future. In short, our fight is a clash of the age-old philosophy of life. Freedom to live life as you choose, or controlled by an unseen few. And there's very little middle ground on that. I know that many of you have felt discouraged, feeling helpless and hopeless, believing we have lost our republic. But to those of you who have engaged in this battle and felt loss, do not despair. Do not hang your head in defeat. Be energized. Every action you take, successful or not, helps to expose their lies, and that's why they fear you. I worked for 18 years trying to make people understand what Agenda 21 was. We had some ranchers, we had some timber people in the West, and that was about it, because they were the first line of target. In the cities, no one was listening. We kept at it. And about 3 years ago, it exploded because people began to see it. They could feel it. And thank God for the Tea Party, because that just became our way to get it out. Too many people on our side believe that if you go to one meeting, take part in a sign waving or a protest or make phone calls or write letters, then that's all you need to do. And then they become discouraged and they quit when nothing positive is visible. Let me give you this one fact. Our victories will not be celebrated by parades and bells ringing from churches as our vanquished enemies are marched down the street in chains and disgrace. That's what a lot of people are expecting. I went to a sign waving. I signed a petition. I made phone calls. Why are those people still out there? Why aren't they in jail? Our victories are, in fact, psychological victories. We need to hit them again and again until they become afraid to act for fear of what we will do next. We need to force elected officials to listen to us rather than the stakeholders. We need to pressure them to run the stakeholders out of town and end their power and their reign of terror. Even 10 or 15 people using these straightforward tactics that I've given you today. And by the way, this is very, very basic. You take it and make it work for your particular situation. It's a basic idea. Do this, we can accomplish it. But it takes persistence. This is their agenda for the 21st century. Agenda 21 means your life decisions chosen for you by someone else. Agenda 21 is the battle that we must win if we are to restore our republic. Please don't be discouraged if the progress seems slow. Remember, it took the sustainabilists decades to bring us this far, and it will take time to stop it. But we are winning battles, and the opposition is terrified of what we're accomplishing. More than 150 American cities have ended their membership in ICLEI. The most recent one is Roanoke. Just 2 days ago, not only had they kicked ICLEI out in Roanoke, they actually took apart all the policies that go with it. That's major. And just the other night, as I said, the county supervisors completed it. In Ohio, 2 counties have pulled out of regional plans. In several more states, anti-Agenda 21 legislation is being introduced. It started with Alabama. I mentioned Oklahoma. In San Francisco, residents have caused a major shock to the planners by stopping a regional plan. They used this one event as the example all over the country. Oh my gosh, these people are crazy. San Francisco. In Florida, Planners are running scared from property rights activists who are putting up a tremendous fight to stop a regional plan in the Orlando area. The Common Core fight has caused several states to now opt out of this federal curriculum, and that curriculum is necessary for the future implementation of Agenda 21. A whole town in New Hampshire just a few weeks ago rose up and threw out the comprehensive plan and its sustainable development policies. They did it in a matter of months. I think they said they spent $1,300 in organizing. It's done. And of course, here in Virginia, the property rights activists fought a magnificent fight to pass the Bonetta bill to protect small farmers and property owners from the overreach of local government. And that cuts the NGOs like the PEC off at the knees. And my favorite one, in Baldwin County, Alabama, property rights activists rose up against the comprehensive plan and got the county commissioners to reject it. As soon as that vote was taken, the whole Planning and Zoning Commission resigned in protest, whereupon the citizens in the audience rose up and sang, "God bless America." All of this successful activity has the sustainabilists in a panic. They are terrified of us. They don't understand how we are doing it. It's because we are a true grassroots movement of dedicated Americans who understand this is an assault on our freedoms. Stay with me in this fight. Fight like your life depended on it. Play for keeps. Don't concede a single point when dealing with principle. Start on the local and the state level to change things there. You know, they started all this by saying, think globally and act locally. I say think locally and act locally. If we can preserve freedom in our communities, in our states, then we can preserve it as a nation. The future of freedom depends on your commitment to preserve it. Thank you.
Tom, I think we're going to go ahead and, if you don't mind answering questions,
Okay.
you don't have to, you can get comfortable doing it. Whatever.
Recently, the Supreme Court just said that we can now sue government officials. Has that helped your plight any, or do you think it may?
No, I think it's vital. And Mark Fitzgibbons is pushing this on a local level. If you have people who can sit in a back room and they don't have any consequences for what happens, what rules and regulations they make. I mean, the Founding Fathers created this nation so that your local representatives were the ones that had the most impact on you simply because they were the ones that you could go to. They were your neighbors. You could sit down and have a cup of coffee. You could talk about it. It wasn't taken away from you. And in other words, they would suffer the consequences of a bad policy. And we've now gotten into these regional governments, which totally isolate them. So that who goes and votes for a regional? Nobody. You're not voting for them. They're appointed. And they're making these arbitrary plans, and then the elected officials hide behind it and say, "Oh, I didn't do it, they did." So
then,
yeah, it's vital.
And then the other one, have you looked into Title 18, Section 241, and I'll paraphrase, where two or more conspire to basically strip you of your rights, they can be fined, I think, up to $1 million and 10 years in jail. Have you looked into that at all?
I haven't looked into it, but it sounds a good idea to me. And when people do these kind of things, untouchable, that leads to tyranny. It can't be anything else. And everybody has to be accountable for their actions. And if you rip people apart, I don't want to get into a whole different issue, but I'm just appalled by people who say, "I don't want to go through chemotherapy," or "I don't want my child to go through that. There are other ways to be cured for cancer." And they're accused of child abuse. Their children are taken away from them because they don't adhere to the politically correct method of it. And yet you've got people like Suzanne Summers. I'm talking about golf on a tirade on this, but she had cancer and used other kinds of cures and wasn't invasive and didn't have mastectomies and things like that. And she was condemned by all these people. Why? Because she cured herself? How crazy is that? But people have got to be accountable when they do things that hurt other people. And I think that's key.
I have two questions. Just like sustainability has many, many names and they've changed over the years a lot. I understand Italy has changed.
Just close, very close.
I understand Italy has a newer names. And the second question is, could you tell us a little bit about the heritage areas such as Tennessee and Baltimore?
Happy to. My organization is the only organization that has ever testified against heritage areas in Congress. And the defense by the senator who was behind what we're talking about said, well, has anybody ever sued us over this? We said, that's the way you make policy? Do we have a suit? Heritage areas, here's why they're dangerous. They tell you that one of the tactics they use for folks like you, you're conservative. Conservatives love our history. We love America. We are the ones that go to the battlefields and read the history books, and we watch the History Channel, and we see. We're the ones who do that. This is a weapon used against us, our love of history. And heritage areas, the journey through hallowed ground heritage area. This is one we worked our hardest to stop. There are, it goes all the way from Monticello to Gettysburg. Every historic site inside that area is already preserved. What is it, like 5 presidential homes, I think it is? Battlefields, and yeah, there's some battlefields that aren't. But where is it written that just because an army walked across somebody's private land, suddenly they lose it? Gettysburg is condemned to live in July of 1863 for the rest of its days because the army's going. And I love it. I love the history. I love going to the battlefield. But they use it as a weapon, step by step. They keep pushing more, more. Did you know that somebody walked right here who was living in 1863? And they use that. Here's what, when you put a boundary around something, and the journey through hallowed ground is a boundary that covers all this area, there's a reason for that. They intend for everything inside that boundary to be effective. Here's the danger. Funding for these heritage areas comes through the National Park Service. In reality, if you get really right down to it, you find that everything inside that heritage area has now become under the authority of the National Park Service. It's a park. Even though your home is there, your business, your community, everything. And they run this money through the Park Service. And the Park Service doles that money out to who? All those NGO groups that have private agendas. Now, they will tell you, we have no evidence whatsoever that this heritage area has affected anything like this. Has affected private property, has affected jobs. No. Put the money in their pockets, and they use it. They go to the Chamber of Commerce, they go to other entities in the community, and they begin to get regulations made that affect private property, affect jobs, so forth. But it's done in a way where it's not provable. You can't follow the line right back to the heritage area. But eventually, just as that map that Michael Kaufman did with all the red and the yellow, the heritage area is yellow. It's a buffer zone. Eventually, it's designed to make human activity impossible there, except in certain areas. And I'm very proud to say that I worked with folks down in Southern Virginia. 19 counties are going to be affected by the Crooked Road heritage area. Congressman called me, talked to me about it. And he said, no, I'm going to put legislation, I'm going to put wording in there that protects private property. That wording was written by Frank Wolf. And I told him that wording is worthless. Doesn't mean anything. Because again, just like Agenda 21, oh, this isn't that. You see? That's how that operates. They fool you that way. We got it stopped. County after county began to rise up and say no. And they finally said, we can't do this. First heritage area in the nation to be rejected. It's key.